listening to the Cheerful Sound Man podcast. It's a show for event professionals about the adventures of producing stellar events with a smile. Today, Eric and John share some insight on the planning process, how to work with a client to ensure that they get the event that they want within the budget that they have, and how we prep the production side to fit what that event needs. So before we dive in, make sure to follow us over on Instagram or Facebook at The Cheerful Soundman. Okay, here we go.
I would say one of the biggest things we do for invoicing is just kind of figuring out what the client's budget is. You know, it's not an a la carte menu where you're just kind of adding things on. We really are just interested to see what the client is able to spend and then maximize their budget to give them absolutely everything they can for that amount of money. I feel like when you give somebody an a la carte menu, they piece together what they think is right, and it ends up being overpriced and not what they want. So we like to do packages and just figure out what the client is capable of spending in their budget and then maximize it. And that's just kind of how we operate.
Yeah, so and kind of in that budget conversation of like, what are your goals for the event? It's like, what are you trying to accomplish, and what's your budget? Mm-hmm. And then so we can, because a lot of times we can nip it in the bud right away and go, okay, you're going to need to quadruple that budget if you want to do that, or we can offer you this. So a lot of it is that kind of not negotiating like money-wise, but negotiating with the client of like their expectations versus your reality.
Right. We say, what are your mandatories? What do you absolutely need? You know, do you need CDJs? Do you have to have
a video wall?
A video wall. Yeah. You know, like this has to happen, and then what is your full budget, so we can tell you what it's going to take for your bare minimum and what we can add on for you as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would say, so even this weekend, for example, we have a large church event. We have about 14 shows, I think, but we have a large church event that's handled one way, as far as they have the traveling worship group, I guess, has a rider and some very specific things, and then we have the information on the room. So we actually, that one was not a budget, and then they gave us those parameters, we built them a budget, this is what you need to do the event correctly. At the same time, we have a fraternity party, and we worked the way Pop was talking about, where it was like, okay, what do you want? We want lasers, we want video wall, and we want sound and a small stage or whatever. Right. And we said, and this is our budget. And then so we worked backwards from there. Okay, you can have video wall, but for your budget, you only get a small video wall. If you want a bigger one, it's going to be X amount more. And we worked that way. And at the same time, we have a very fancy wedding at the Versace Mansion in Miami this weekend. And that, again, we're working with the wedding band. The wedding band said, this is our list. Mm-hmm. And we said, okay, it's going to be this amount of money and this. And on that one as well, that one's a quick turnaround, a quick setup, and a very fancy place. So I doubled the amount of labor, the amount of hands we would usually use on something like that. That's usually a 2-person setup. I've added 2 extra guys because it's a quick turnaround, and a quick change.
Everything has to be done.
And it has to be
precise.
Everything has to be.
Versace.
Everything has to be taped perfectly, clean. The guys are going to wear suit jackets for the actual thing. After they load in, they'll put their jacket on. So it's like that's different. And the cost is reflected in that too, that attention to detail, the extra labor. So it's very dependent. Obviously, the equipment as well as the technicians that are going to that and the way they dress, everything else, are vastly different than the fraternity event in their front lawn, where there's going to be confetti and dirt from the yard and natty lights everywhere, and so they're different approaches and different gear even. So.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Cheerful Sound Man podcast. We really hope you enjoyed it and maybe even got a little something out of it too. If you did, we'd love if you could subscribe and leave a review on Apple or Spotify podcasts. That would really make our day. Also follow us over on Instagram at The Cheerful Soundman. Stay tuned for the next episode dropping soon, and until then, don't suck and don't be a jerk.